The year was 1939. The world was teetering on the edge of an abyss. Factories still hummed from the remnants of the Great Depression, their chimneys coughing out smoke that mixed with uncertainty. In the streets of Berlin, London, Moscow, and Washington, no one could imagine the storm that was about to consume the planet, a storm not only of bullets and bombs, but of money. Because behind every tank that rolled, every plane that flew, and every bullet fired, there was a coin, stamped, spent, and sacrificed for victory. This is the untold story of how money built the machines of war. When Adolf Hitler came to power in 1933, Germany was broke. Crippled by the Treaty of Versailles, buried under reparations, and scarred by hyperinflation, the German mark was once so worthless that children played with stacks of banknotes like toys. People carried money in wheelbarrows to buy a loaf of bread. But Hitler had a vision, not of economic recovery, but of domination. To rebuild an empire, he needed weapons. To build weapons, he needed money. And he found it, hidden beneath a web of deception, ingenuity, and theft. He disguised military spending as civil projects. Highways, factories, and airfields were built under the name of national employment programs. The world saw construction, but Germany was secretly preparing for conquest. Behind the curtain of public works, an army was being forged. Economist Hjalmar Schacht, Hitler's financial magician, devised a system of secret credit called Mefo bills. These were phantom funds, paper promises used to pay arms manufacturers without showing the true cost in government ledgers. It was a financial illusion, a national credit card with no limit. And it worked. Within a few years, Germany had tanks rolling off assembly lines, planes screaming into the skies, and soldiers armed to the teeth. But the price was immense. Germany was not rich, it was mortgaged to war. It lived on borrowed time, and borrowed money. Every mark printed was a drumbeat of coming chaos. Across the Channel, Britain watched nervously. The British Empire had wealth, but peace had made it complacent. Factories that once built warships now made automobiles. Coal mines ran at half capacity. The economy was not ready for total war. When conflict finally erupted in September 1939, Britain had to buy time, with gold. London's vaults opened. Bars of gold were quietly loaded onto ships and sent across the Atlantic to Canada, guarded by destroyers through U-boat-infested waters. They were payment, desperate currency for survival, traded for guns, planes, and food. Every pound spent was a plea: keep the lights on, keep the guns firing. The British government sold off foreign assets, borrowed from allies, and raised taxes to levels never seen before. The people of Britain were fighting not only an enemy, but an economic storm. They learned to stretch every coin, because every coin could mean one more bullet, one more bomber, one more breath of freedom. In the Soviet Union, the story was different, but the hunger for money was the same. Joseph Stalin's war machine was a creature born of fear and steel. His economy was brutal, centralized, and unforgiving. While his people starved, his factories thrived. Every ruble was directed into oil, tanks, and ammunition. When the German invasion came in 1941, the Soviet response was not retreat, it was relocation. Entire industries were uprooted and hauled eastward, beyond the Ural Mountains, away from the front lines. Whole cities moved overnight. The Soviet Union paid for survival not in gold, but in blood and sweat. Workers labored 16 hours a day. Money lost its meaning, the new currency was endurance. Meanwhile, across the ocean, America was still clinging to neutrality. Factories were idle, farmers struggled, and the scars of the Great Depression still ached. But the storm in Europe began to awaken the sleeping giant. President Franklin D. Roosevelt saw that America's strength was not only in its soldiers, but in its dollars. In 1941, he launched the Lend-Lease Act, a revolutionary idea. Instead of sending troops, the United States would send weapons, food, and supplies to its allies, Britain, China, and later the Soviet Union. "Suppose your neighbor's house is on fire," Roosevelt said. "You don't sell him your hose, you lend it to him." But America's hose was made of steel and oil. In just a few years, US factories exploded with life. Detroit stopped making cars and began making tanks. Boeing built a new bomber every hour. The economy roared back to life, powered by war contracts. By 1943, American industry was producing more than half the weapons used by the Allies. Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler became engines of global defense. It was capitalism turned into combat, profit turned into patriotism. As America's production soared, its financial machine adapted. The Treasury issued war bonds, patriotic loans from ordinary citizens. Posters filled every street corner. Buy bonds, back the attack. Movie stars like Rita Hayworth, Carol Lombard, and Clark Gable toured cities, urging people to invest in victory. School children collected coins and scrap metal. Housewives rationed sugar and gas. Even the smallest contribution, a nickel, a dime, became a bullet in a soldier's rifle. In Germany, the economy twisted into a darker shape. The Nazi regime plundered wealth from every corner of occupied Europe. When the Wehrmacht conquered a country, the first soldiers through the door were not always infantry, they were bankers. National gold reserves were seized, factories repurposed, currencies replaced with puppet money controlled by Berlin. France, Poland, the Netherlands, all were economically enslaved. The Reich looted art, jewels, and even the gold teeth of concentration camp victims. Every ounce melted down went into the coffers of war. To fund their empire, the Nazis even turned to counterfeiting. In 1942, they launched Operation Bernard, a secret plan to flood Britain with forged £5 and £10 notes. The goal? Destroy the British economy from within. Prisoners in concentration camps were forced to print millions in fake currency. It was economic warfare in its purest, coldest form, money as a bomb. In Asia, Japan faced its own financial crucible. The islands had little oil, few metals, and almost no natural wealth. Yet Japan's leaders dreamed of ruling Asia. To feed their empire, they invaded China in 1937, then Southeast Asia, chasing coal, iron, and oil. Every conquest was driven by scarcity. When the US imposed an oil embargo in 1941, Japan's economy began to suffocate. Without oil, its war machine would die in months. The attack on Pearl Harbor wasn't just a military strike, it was economic desperation turned into violence. The world's great powers were now locked in a global contest not only of armies, but of accountants. The true battlefield stretched from Wall Street to the Ruhr Valley, from the oil fields of Baku to the rice paddies of Burma. Money became as important as men. Every budget meeting was a battle plan. Every ton of steel was a soldier's heartbeat. By 1943, the cost of war had reached unimaginable heights. The United States spent over $300 billion, equivalent to trillions today. Britain was drowning in debt. The Soviet Union's economy was scorched by invasion. Germany was living on stolen wealth. Japan's treasury was nearly empty. The world was burning its own future to stay alive in the present. Yet even in the darkest hours, money still inspired hope. In the US, the bond drives turned patriotism into profit. Citizens saw their savings not as loss, but as an investment.